They were known as Loyalists. They were willing to fight, too. And in North Carolina, both of these groups wanted the Scottish immigrants to join their cause. "Just this one evening," Elspeth thought hopefully. "Let us have just one evening without anger and bitterness." Her chest eased a bit more. She saw that tonight people seemed more interested in enjoying themselves than in arguing. Children darted across the clearing. The older girls and boys began to dance, lively jigs and reels, and the whirling circular dance called America. Elspeth's cousins, Robbie and Duncan McKinnon, had no trouble finding girls to dance with. The boys also wore plaids for the occasion, and looked, Elspeth thought, quite fine. Her chest tightened as her grandfather's booming voice cut through the music. But Granda was telling jokes, no more. "Don't fret so much," she scolded herself. Even Granny seemed to be enjoying herself. Granny and Aunt Mary were helping the other women spread baskets of hoe cakes and scones, dishes of turnips and sweet potatoes and beans, and platters of turkey and venison on tables set up near the cabin. Elspeth nudged her friend. "Let's get something to eat." Elspeth and Mercy joined the line behind a girl about their age. She had corn-coloured hair and a face speckled as a meadow pipit's egg. "Kimura how?" the girl asked shyly. "I am well," Elspeth answered. "But do you speak English? My friend Mercy here doesn't have Gaelic. I'm Elspeth Monro. Are you newly arrived?" The other girl looked confused, so Elspeth repeated herself in Gaelic. "My name's Janet McCracken. I am just arrived." Janet's words tumbled over each other in her eagerness. "My father, he's called Tall Tam McCracken, decided that we'd come to America and start fresh. It's just us two. My mother died years ago. We're staying with my father's brother. He owns the mill on Panther Creek." Elspeth felt a kinship to any girl who'd lost her mother, just as she had. Still, she felt awkward chattering in Gaelic in front of Mercy, and was glad when Granny beckoned. "We're sure to meet again," she told Janet. "I hope so." Janet's smile included both girls. Elspeth and Mercy joined Granny as she pulled a dish from beneath a linen towel. "My crowdie's almost gone," she told Elspeth in Gaelic, waving flies away. Unlike Granda, Granny didn't speak English. "I saved a bite for Mercy." "Thank you." Elspeth smiled. Granny was not a prideful woman, except where her cooking was concerned. Her crowdie, made from oatmeal and whipped cream and a bit of brown sugar, was good. Granny leaned close. "Stay clear of that McCracken girl," she muttered to Elspeth. "There's bad blood there." Elspeth's smile faded. "Granny," she began, but the old woman had turned aside. Fortunately, Janet was already walking away. The man who joined her, long and lean as a hoe handle, must be her father. "Elspeth, what are these?" Mercy pointed. "Bannocks. They're oat cakes, baked on a griddle. I hardly ever get them here, but we ate them back home." Mercy eyed the bannocks dubiously. "How is it that you speak English when most Scottish people don't?" "My granddad learned when he was a soldier, years ago." Elspeth scooped a dollop of mashed turnips onto her plate. "And he taught me. Here, try one of my Aunt Mary's sausages." Elspeth and Mercy sat on a log to eat and watch the dancing. As twilight's purple shadows faded into the rich black of full night, some of the boys built a bonfire. Elspeth stared at the sparks shooting skyward. "We could be back in Scotland," she thought. 2 years had passed since she and her mother's parents, Angus and Morag McKinnon, had arrived in North Carolina. Still, moments like this took her back. The bagpipes, the Gaelic songs, the bonfire, the mesmerizing swirl of men's plaids and ladies' skirts as the dancers whirled. But no, The night smelt of pine, not of heather and the sea. The gun's log home was more substantial than the smoke-blackened sod and stone cottages the Highlanders had inhabited in Scotland. And her best friend was an American. Many of the youngest guests were sleeping on laps and shoulders when Granny came for the girls. "It's time we were heading home," she said to Elspeth. "Did your friend enjoy herself?" When Elspeth translated, Mercy beamed. "Oh, yes, Mistress McKinnon. I had a lovely time." Granny nodded at Mercy's enthusiasm, and a small smile touched her own lips. Night cloaked the shiny red scars of a long-ago fire that marred her face. Soon Granny, Granda, Elspeth, and Mercy stood in a little cluster of people saying their goodbyes. Beyond them, near the fire, the musicians were still at it. Elspeth tapped her fingers longingly against her leg in time to the rollicking tune. "Elspeth Monro, you've fetched on an inch since I saw you last," a neighbour said with a smile. "It was fine to meet you, Mercy," a young woman called. "Send Elspeth over soon to help me pick wild grapes if you can spare her," Aunt Mary told Granny. "Granda," Robbie said, "some of the lads want your opinion of the Patriots' latest handbill." He held out a crumpled piece of paper. Elspeth saw a pine tree and a snake pictured below the printed words. "Can Duncan and I bring the boys by your place once I round them up?" He gestured toward the stomping and twirling black shadows silhouetted against the bonfire. Elspeth frowned. These handbills held political arguments and often were nailed up or passed out in the nearby village of Cross Creek. Patriots' rebellious ideas angered the Loyalists, who responded by printing their own ideas. Jings, just what she did not want to hear about tonight. But Granda shook his head. "I'll no be home for a bit. I'll leave off your granny, then take Elspeth's friend on to home. She lives by Cross Creek." Robbie looked disappointed, but nodded. "Another time, then. If your wheat's ready, Granda, we'll come this week and help thresh." Robbie and Duncan and Granda often worked together to get chores done on the two little farms, which were only a mile or so apart. Granda had brought their market cart and Moll their grey mare. Granny and Granda sat on the seat, and Elspeth and Mercy settled in the bag. "Did you truly have a fair time?" Elspeth whispered as they headed into the night. "Yes. Why do you keep asking?" "Oh, your mother and father have been so kindly to me. I do love coming to your house." Elspeth felt her face grow hot. "I felt more than a wee bit ashamed of no returning the kindness." "Well, you're not entirely a guest at our house," Mercy pointed out. "You're practically an apprentice. My mother says she could never keep up with her orders if she didn't have your help at the looms." "Still—" Elspeth's grandmother and Mercy's mother had worked out a trade. Mistress Blair was teaching Elspeth to weave, and the McKinnons kept the Blairs supplied with sweet potatoes and kale and such. The Blairs often invited Elspeth to stay for supper, and she had dithered for months about inviting her friend to dinner in return. If only Grandad didn't so often shout. If only Granny didn't so often disappear, cold and quiet, into her memories of an old Scottish civil war. Mercy squeezed Elspeth's hand. "Never mind," she said. "As for tonight, it was fun. What did you call the party? A ceilidh?" "Ceilidh." Mercy tried the Gaelic word. "I loved the music and the dances and the food. Well, excepting perhaps the oatcakes," she added fairly, and Elspeth laughed. They stopped first at the McKinnons' cabin on the banks of Sweetwater Creek. Elspeth carried their food baskets inside. Granny lit 2 candles and placed one in the window. "Tell Mercy I want to send the rest of this venison home with her," she told Elspeth. "Wait while I fetch her smaller basket." The basket in hand, Elspeth and Mercy curled together again in the cart.